All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Climb Your Everest Leadership Workshop Series. Some of you met me before, some of you today is the first time. So we've been doing these online leadership programs for the past 2 years, every Saturday. But a couple of months ago, we decided, because it was very hard for people to join every single Saturday, so we decided to do it once a month. So we are meeting every Saturday, the first Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. Nepal time. And so because we have people from different regions here, and we've been going through different programs, like different leadership skills. So I'll share a little bit about you, what is going to happen today, so to prepare you for the workshop today. So first of all, if you haven't done anything or you haven't registered for the workshop, here is the link that you can sign up: sarasafari.com/mentorship-intro. I sent an email to all of you who I have your email, and I shared this link. So if you don't receive my email, I want you to go to the chat box and put your email there, or get your email from get my email from someone who introduced you to the workshop. So if you've been participating in the workshop, great. But if today is your first day, you need to participate in the 6 months online. So if today is your first day, then you need to do 6 months of online program, finish all the online videos, and then come to the in-person workshop. And after you finish online and in person, then you get a certificate, okay, and an award. But I don't tell you what is the award. I'll wait for you to see your award yourself. So our goal, this organization, Climb Your Everest, focuses on empowering women. But empowering women is not possible if we don't have the other 50% of the population of the earth, right? So this is a quote: empowering girls is the key to economic growth, political stability, and social transformation. So some of you are students, some of you are engineers, some of you are teachers, some of you are educators. So we have people from different walks of life, but most people are some sort of education. So they want to grow, they want to learn, they want to teach others how to grow and learn, right? All of us, in whatever walks of life we are from, we are learning, growing, teaching others, our brothers, sisters, cousins, siblings, parents, right? We are all teachers, teachers of life, right? So, but for me, one of my goals in life is to empower women. And I invited all of you to be part of this workshop, because this is, I think, the next thing that we need to do in this century. And it's been ignored for years and years and years. And that's my mission. And I hope we are aligned in that mission together. So how are we doing this? So as I told you, this is an online and in-person program. And I told you, I'm coming back to Nepal in May, so I'll meet all of you in person. So we do the online part here on Saturday mornings, and then we do the in-person. I'll tell you where to meet and how's the schedule and everything. But after you go through this program and learn different leadership skills, then I want you to become the teachers for others and teach it back to your community, to your people, to your students, to your whoever is around you, that you can educate them. Because the only way we can change the world is by educating ourselves, by educating people around us, and creating small changes little by little, right? So if you are interested to be a part of instructor team, I want you to send an email to me and tell me, Sarah, I want to be part of that instructor team, okay? And schedule a meeting with me so we can meet one-on-one and we can work together. So what are the topics that you can teach to other people? All right. So confidence building, effective communication, leadership styles and leadership skills, building a supportive network, career advancement and goal setting, emotional intelligence and leadership, inclusivity and diversity in leadership, resilience and adaptability, time management. And if you don't know this, but you still want to be an instructor, I still want you to reach out to me and tell me, Sarah, I don't know this topic, but I'm very much interested. Tell me how I can do that. Because we want to spread the word. I want you to go to different places in Nepal, rural areas in Nepal, and share this with others who need to learn this the most. Okay, so how you can start? By sending me an email, sarah@climbYourEverest.org. And then by sending me an email, you can take the first step. You say, this is the topics, these are the topics, or this is the specific topic I'm interested in, and I want to take it to the next level. What is the next step for me? Okay. And if you send me an email and I haven't answered yet, I'm sorry. I promise I will answer. Just send it to me again and say, Sarah, can you reply back to this email you forgot? All right. I'm sorry. I just received so many emails. Sometimes some of the emails, they just get lost in my email. So don't give up. Please be persistent. Send me emails over and over again and remind me. I really, really appreciate it. Okay. Another thing we talked about is the community project. And in the community project, that for those of you who met me already in person in Nepal, you know what I'm exactly talking about. So we created a project for your community, okay? It was different topics from doing business and entrepreneurship to environmental causes, for helping children with financial literacy. There were like so many different topics that we talked about. Whatever your passion is, whatever is something that you really like and you're very passionate about, I want you to pick that project. Some of you emailed me and say, well, I don't have a team. I don't have a group. You don't have to have a big group of people. One or two people who are passionate like you, who are interested like you, who are excited like you about a certain thing, you can take a small steps. And all the people, actually, I wrote it here. So all the people that participate, all the groups that participate, the top three, they're going to compete and the top three will receive an award. And I want to recognize your whatever achievement that you had in the area that you've chosen. And I want to support you so you can take your community project to the next level. One thing that I want all of you to present when you talk about community project, when I come back to Nepal in May, is SWOT analysis. So if you are already started your community project, or you're in the middle of it, or you're at the end of it, right? I want you to add a slide on SWOT analysis. What is SWOT? Strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. If you don't know what is SWOT analysis, we explained it in the previous sessions. So please go Google SWOT analysis, SWOT. S is for strength. What are the strengths of your community project? What are the good things about it, right? What are the weaknesses? What are the things you need to work on? What are the opportunities? How you can expand it? What are the threats? What are some of the risks? Okay, so these are the things I want you to talk about when you talk about your community project. If this doesn't make sense, please reach out to me, email me, and ask me, Sarah, can you explain this to me? Okay, so we had 2 online sessions so far. The first online session, we talked about self-love, and the video, I provided a video online, so you have access to that, and I emailed it to you. If you want that YouTube video again, please message me. The second topic we talked about was conflict, how to deal with conflict in our relationships. We talked about effective communication, empathy and understanding, resolution and compromise, separating problem from the person, and continuous improvement. So we already had 2 online sessions, right? This is our 3rd session. So our 3rd session today is on child psychology by my amazing friend, Ryan. Ryan, are you here?
Indeed, I am.
All right. Hi.
Glad to
Welcome.
be here.
Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
So
Is that
Ryan is
it?
my friend. Let me introduce you and then you introduce yourself.
Okay.
So Ryan is my friend. We came to Nepal together and we went to Everest Base Camp together. So he's gonna share his story with you and he's planning to come to Nepal again. I let him tell you all about that. But he is a psychologist and he is very successful. So some of you asked me that you really want to learn more about child psychology and you asked me a lot of questions about child psychology. So I want you to really ask all the questions you have from Ryan today, and he's going to provide his email so you can email him and ask all questions that might not be related to today's topic. You can just email him and ask him. But with no further ado, I want to welcome you, Ryan. Thank you for being here. And I have a big request to everyone to please don't be shy and ask as many questions as you want. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm just getting a look at all of you. There you are. Um, so I'm super glad to be here. Like Sarah said, I traveled with her to Nepal. I guess, gosh, that was, um,
2018.
yeah, 2018. So it's been 5 years.
It's 6 years now.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's not 2023 anymore.
yeah.
So she was right. I am thinking about coming back. If I do come back, I want to do so with my daughter. Let me see if I can find a picture of her really quickly. I should have done this ahead of time. I just wasn't thinking. So we've talked about coming back together. She really wants to come. She's seen all of my pictures from my first visit
Mhm.
and was
Actually,
super
your
eager.
wife also, I mean,
That's true.
2018, you came with me to the Everest Base Camp, and in 2021,
20 or
21,
21. Yeah.
yeah, Nikki came to Nepal to Everest Base Camp with me. So kind of we are waiting for your son and your daughter to come to Nepal.
Yeah. Here's a picture of my wife. I'm going to share it with you really quick and my daughter. If I can find the right one. Here we go. Here I come to share. This is my wife and my daughter. Can you guys see?
Yes.
They look a lot alike, in case you
Yeah,
can't
you
tell.
guys are all
Um,
cop like kind of your family that you all four of you are so look alike.
Yeah,
It's very
genetics are
cute.
funny
It's
like
very
that.
cute.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Um, so all that to say, I loved being in Nepal. I put a few slides from put a few pictures in my slides that I'm going to show you tonight. Um, uh, from my trip to Nepal, it really was a life-changing trip. Obviously, the hike to Everest, but really just being in your beautiful country and having a chance to interact with your people really was made a huge impact on me. So I'm going to show you. Oh, I didn't want to do that, did I? We're going to do the screen. Give me 1 second to share my screen the right way so that you can see my
Okay.
slides.
So thank you to
Uh,
those of you who wrote your email in the chat box. If there we have a new person who joined us and they are not receiving my emails, please go ahead in your chat box, write your email.
okay. Okay. Can everybody see that pretty good?
Yes, it's perfect.
So the stuff that I wanted to cover with you tonight, by the way, I started a psychotherapy, a mental health counseling practice in St. Louis, Missouri, which is, if you look on a map of the entire United States, it's right in the very middle. That practice is still going. There's about 20 people that work at it. We see about between 1,000 and 1,200 sessions per month. So it does a lot. I no longer live there. I now live just about an hour or so away from Sara. I'm in San Diego, California, and I do continue to run that practice. And then also I have begun seeing clients here. Early in my career, I spent a lot of time with young children. And then all throughout my career, I've also worked a lot with adolescents. And so I could talk about this stuff for days and days and days. I only have a half an hour with you. I'm already 7 minutes into that. So I just want you to know that I'm just going to give you a really small set of things to think about that seemed important to me. These are things that when I have taught, I've also taught psychology classes throughout my career. I can spend an entire semester, so like 16 weeks on this material. So you're going to get just a small portion, but I think it will be helpful for you. Um,
Hopefully,
I
when you
know that,
come to Nepal, you can expand on it and continue
yes,
the thought. Yeah.
I would love to. That'd be amazing. Here's just some pictures of us in Nepal. You can see Sarah here with her broken arm.
Yeah.
And then here's me way in back. And I don't know if you guys have met Dr. Jeffrey, Dr.
Some of
Cotler.
them, yes.
Yeah. And then there are just some pictures that we took at some of the schools that we visited. Um, and it was just, again, it was really beautiful. I was very glad to be there, and I can't wait to come back with my daughter, and eventually with my son too.
Mhm.
So I wanted to give you some questions to think about right off the bat. You don't have to answer them right now. We're going to come back to them. But I want so those of you who have worked with children, or those of you who are anticipating working with children, I'm wondering what kind of problems you have seen or what struggles you've had, especially with the young ones, and then also with those who are 8 to 12, because that's largely what I'm going to talk with you about today. So maybe kind of be thinking about those problems, and I might come back and ask you to name some of them if you can think of them
Mhm.
right off the top of your your mind. Um, what I wanted to start with is just remember I'm going to talk with you just about a small snippet of cognitive development. Cognitive means mind or of the mind, and obviously development means how we grow. So cognitive development is a process by which humans acquire knowledge. It's how we do what we do um, with the information in our world. It's how we organize that information. This is particularly important with children because it gives us insights into how the children solve problems, how they learn, how they make sense of the world around them. And so the question that would sort of naturally outflow from that is, how do children develop? And I want to try to answer that. But before I do, I don't know how much you guys know about this stuff, but when a child is born, 25% of their brain is already 25% of the weight of an adult brain. So much happens. 25% of brain development happens while they're still yet unborn, while they're still being developed in the womb. But what's really fascinating is that 50% of the so for you, for each of you, 50% of the development of your brain after you were born happens between the time you are born and roughly 2 or 3 years of age, which means that 75% of brain growth occurs from a very young age. So, particularly those of you who are working with or intend to work with small children, it's such an important age. Their brains are moldable. I mean, we can literally have an impact on brain development. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you can see this here, but about 1 million neurons per second. You know what neurons are? Neurons are the things in our brains that connect the impulses, the electric impulses that make thoughts, that help us make connections, insights grow and develop. 1 million of those per second happen. So it's really important that children from this age onward are exposed to a variety of experiences. That's why we spend so much time trying to educate and work with young children. Of course, this continues to develop, but particularly while they're young, their cognitive, their physical body, their social interactions, language, emotions, all of this is incredibly important across the lifetime of a child. Makes sense so far? Questions, thoughts? Tracking with me? Yes.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So back to my first question, how do children develop? This is something that psychologists have been trying to answer for a very long time. And of course, there are a number of different perspectives. Again, remember today, in the interest of time, I just want to cover a small amount. I just want to talk with you about two. Some of you may have seen these names before in your education, or you may have read about them or heard about them. One is a gentleman by the name of Piaget, who came up with what's called the developmental theory. And the other is Vygotsky, who came up with what's called sociocultural theory. Piaget's is going to be largely focused on just what it says, how children develop in stages. And Vygotsky's is about how we interact with our environment and those around us. So they really focused on different things. Both are important if you really want to understand how children develop. So Piaget, we're going to talk about him first. I'm going to just go through the stages with you and see what you have to say or what you think about them. From birth to 2 years old, Piaget called this stage the sensory motor stage. And what he said was that children largely at this age understand the world through their five senses. So if you know what, your senses: touch, sight, hearing, taste, and smell. And if you think about the babies that from 0 to 2 years old, this makes sense. They largely understand the world through their senses and then the actions that they take. So obviously, the limitation for children learning at this stage is that there isn't much they can learn beyond this. As a matter of fact, children are so bound to their senses, again, sight, touch, taste, see, smell, hearing, excuse me, smell. They're so bound to their senses that, for example, I don't know if has anybody ever, I can see a lot of you, heard of something called object permanence? Anybody know what that is? So object doesn't look like it. It's very wordy. It's hard to understand. Object permanence means that if you show a baby an object and then you hide that object, the baby thinks that the object doesn't exist anymore. So they're so limited into understanding the world in their senses that when one of their senses is deprived, they don't understand what's happened. They simply, for example, again, take an object away, they think the object no longer exists. This is why adults play games with babies, showing them things, pulling it away, showing them. And each time when you show the baby, they light up and smile and are delighted. And the reason is because to them, the thing you just took away went away completely, and now it's back again. So obviously, if you want to engage a child at that stage, you're really wanting to do so through their senses. Give them things to taste, give them things to touch, give them things to smell, give them things to see, give them things to hear. So, learning, if you want to understand child psychology from 0 to 2 years old, know that the best way to interact with them is through sensory experiences: touch, seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling. The next one is from 2 to 7 years old. It's called pre-operational. In this stage, and this will make sense again as I'm saying this, think about the children who fall into these ages. From 2 to 7, they largely understand the world through mental images and language. It isn't that babies don't appreciate language, but it is mainly from a sense. They like hearing things. By the time children hit 2 to 7, they can actually begin to understand. The limitations here are obviously around what they can understand. Their language isn't very developed, um, but they are really eager and they learn well through play. This is the stage where children start to imitate adults. They use the same language. That's why you sometimes have to be careful what you say in front of small children, because you could say something very adult oriented and they can turn around and repeat it. But they're really eager to learn through imitation and through speech and behavior and play. So some of the other limitations here is that children, and again, I hope this makes sense if you think about the 2-year-olds or the 5-year-olds or the 7-year-olds that you know, they're very self-centered, not in a bad way, but they're very sort of focused on themselves. What do I mean by that? Um, Children at this stage can't yet understand the perspectives of others without having an adult there to facilitate that knowledge. So, those of you who have worked with children at this age, you may notice that when they get into arguments with one another, or if they have some form of back and forth, if someone hits someone, a teacher often will have to come, or an adult, and help the two children understand the perspective of the other child. So if one child hits another child, a teacher or an adult might say, hey, how do you think that he felt when you hit him? And sometimes the child cannot answer the question. And it's not because they're bad or because they are lying to you that they don't know. In terms of how they have developed thus far from a psychological perspective, sometimes they don't yet have what's called, the technical psychological term is called theory of mind. Theory of mind. So again, they don't yet have the ability to understand others' perspectives. Sometimes they don't even have the ability to understand that others have a perspective at all, let alone understanding what that perspective might be. I want to stop and ask, and it's okay if people don't know. Do you have any ideas if children at this stage understand the world largely through language and through mental images? Do you have any ideas about how you would engage with a child at this developmental stage? If you were a teacher in a classroom and you know that your class responds to language and mental images, what things might you do in a classroom with them?
Maybe showing them some videos
Very good. Yes. Why? Why do you say?
because when I was a child, I always imagined a lot of things. Like if I want to study, because I've been studying through videos and
Mm,
pictures, like
yes.
language, all the language can be so boring sometimes because you can't
Hmm.
understand at that age. Everything is,
That's
babies
right.
are creative mind. They have a creative mind. So if we saw any kind of like pictures, they will catch it so immediately. Like this is that
Yes.
kind of that, because they are very playful, very active. So I think a video is
Love
the
that.
best way to teach them. Like I always show them videos instead of just reading out loud the books.
Yeah, there you go. Love that. So I would say anything that contains images, and obviously videos are largely comprised of imagery. If you're going to do stories out loud, it should be arguably should be stories with pictures. Sometimes children at this age really strongly prefer storybooks that don't have a lot of words, just pictures. I would say games, anything that has any kind of props. Remember that they're particularly on the front end of this when they're 2, 3 years old, they're still very much in their bodies, their senses. And so anything that promotes movement, one of the mistakes that we have made in Western culture a lot is requiring children to sit all day long at desks. And it doesn't work very well, particularly for young children, because they learn so much through movement. So videos, if you're going to do stories with pictures, movement, songs, anything that can create imagery and sort of blend together language and imagery and help them learn to create some of this on their own. Other thoughts or questions before I move on?
What kind of game shall we engage them? In what kind of game?
Those are great questions. That's a great question. Anything that you can use that combines the things we're talking about. So games that allow children to have to create imagery in their mind and then potentially act it out. And anything that involves movement, they all tend to work really well. The older you get, the more complex games can get. Obviously, a 7-year-old child is going to be capable of a lot more than, say a 3 or 4-year-old. But the difficulty with game suggestions is that sometimes they're culturally relevant. So games that might, really make a lot of sense to American children may or may not make sense abroad. What ones have you been using in your own? It sounds like you have a classroom or in your own work.
Yeah. So I'm actually a primary teacher.
Oh, great.
So I engage with 15 years old of children.
Got it.
So I see a lot of behavior on them. Like somebody is active, somebody is sweet, somebody is very playful, or some children don't like to speak to the teacher. They are always scared.
Mm,
Like
mm.
I have seen a lot of students, like somebody likes to read, somebody doesn't, somebody like to play and read at the same time, but somebody always like to play fight games,
I
those
see.
kind of things. Like I've seen a lot of children. So I I always make them play like volleyball, football, and
Got it.
sometimes I make them sing in class on Christmas Day or on Friday, like because I know how it feels to sit all day in class and just reading the books. Like
Right.
I make them stand.
Yeah.
I
Right.
will.
Well, you got the.
I will.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll make them jump like Sarah did to our workshop, like jumping jacks for 10 times. Like she really educated me. She really taught me that. So I always make my student to jump like 20 times, and they really attached to me. If they do something bad, they will come up to me and say sorry. I will never do that again. And they're
Mm,
really sweet, but some they don't understand like maturely. They don't know how to do
yes.
homework. They don't know. They just think that I will always love them and I don't need to do anything. I will always forgive them. That's the problem.
Yeah, boy, that sure does sound like some children I know as well. I think the things you're doing are really great. Again, particularly the older you get, the more complex games you can do. But anything involving kinesthetic movement is generally positive. Um, I'm gonna hop through these really quick. So 7 to 12, they understand the world through what's called concrete operational stage. They understand the world through logical thinking and categories. And maybe this is some of what you have run into. Prior to this stage, their ability to think logically is really limited. And what do we mean by that? Ability to sequence events, the ability to think through situations. They need a ton of facilitating. Um, by this age group, they're starting to be able to. but it really only comes with a lot of facilitation from the teacher, which is why they're so heavily dependent on you. The good news is by this age, they can start to consider the fact that others have perspectives and that they may not be the same perspective as mine. They can begin to attempt problem solving. Prior to 7 to 12, problem solving is really limited. They're almost always going to require an adult to be there to problem solve. Also, both a blessing and a curse at 7 to 12 is lots of communication with their peers begins. So sometimes that communication goes really well, sometimes it doesn't go really well. The limitations at this stage, this is why we call it, I don't know if this terminology will pass the language barrier, but we call this stage concrete operational, meaning that children at this stage still really need something very tangible. They don't understand things that are too abstract or too theoretical or hypothetical, if we know what that means. And so they have trouble considering what if questions. Well, what if this happens? And some of that is simply based on their lack of experience, but more than that, it's also based on the fact that their brain has simply not developed yet. Is that a question that you have?
Yeah, Astika raised her hand.
Yeah.
Astika, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I have a question that
Sure.
I teach a sister from grade 5. She is just 11 years old now. She's so conscious that she knows everything, like who opened the gate and who is in the gate, like who is actually coming right now. She knows that, but she is still unaware of the problems that are subjective, like she's so bad in her studies, but she's so conscious in the extraordinary activities, and like she dances very well. And yes, like Sarah ma'am told us to do some exercise. And yeah, they are so close to me, but still I got to know she's still interested to read, but she can't capture what she has read or what might be the.
Oh, that's a great question. You just say what might be the problem?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, gosh. I need to meet her to figure that out. What did you say?
And what might be my role to enhance her, because I am her home tutor. I should look her individually. So yes, she's close to me. She's not afraid of me. She can share everything with me, even about her periods and all. She's scared of her mom and dad. But she belongs to a rich family, but she has lack of concentration and focus on her studies. I guess what might be the problem now.
Gosh, I really don't know. You are probably the expert in that area. Some of what you'll learn about. I think the point of a lot of these slides tonight is that these things are developmental, meaning when you're in this time period, it will feel a lot like you are hitting your head against a wall. It's difficult for a child to be any older than they actually are. And there's something about brain development at this stage that simply will not let them apprehend some of the things that you're talking about. If she has difficulty concentrating and she's, sometimes there are other factors at play, things that are going on at home. The child's emotional development may be need attention in some way. My best recommendation to you is to use your faculties. You are the closest one to her. Your observations are probably fairly astute. They're probably fairly accurate. But from a developmental perspective, I guess this is almost bad news. It's kind of difficult until they get out of this phase for them to be able to get some of. So, for example, if I just advance the slide, you can see what's coming in the next phase is exactly what they lacked before. So back from 7 to 12, they're largely understanding the world as logical thinkers, but they're not very good at hypothetical or anything that's too abstract. And of course, right when we go to the next phase, that's exactly what they become capable of. So some of this is about um, being long suffering and having patience with them and to continue to work at the edge of their knowledge. I want to skip ahead to something that we were going to talk about later since we're running short on time. Um, Vygotsky, so the other theorist, talked about something called the zone of proximal development, if you can see it right here. Very fancy words. What he's saying is that there are some things very clearly that children can do independently. There are some things that they can do with help. And then, of course, there are some things, and this is, I think, what I'm saying to you is the most frustrating part about working with children is that they're at each stage, there are certain things that they simply cannot yet do, even with our help. So our job is to try to work down here just in these two quadrants, in these two thirds rather, with the things they can do and the things that they can only do with our help, trusting that in time their ability will grow. But I mean, sometimes it takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of trust. I mean, any of you who have your own children as well, I could tell you some days I'm looking at my children wondering if they're from a different planet. But they're not. They're from this one. And so my best admonition to you again is work with what they can do with your help and don't think of it as somehow that something is amiss simply because they continue to need your help over and over and that they can't yet do it without you. That is the nature of learning, unfortunately, or fortunately, as the case may be. Sarah, I'm seeing that we're pretty short on time in terms of the
Yeah,
half an hour.
that's okay. We can go a few more minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So this was basically the end of the Piaget. I was just going to tell you here the main limitation for children. So once they advance to 12 years old and beyond, so all of the adolescent years, they become much more capable of comprehending things that are abstract, multiple viewpoints and possibilities. They can say, well, sort of like I'm telling you, right, about Piaget and Vygotsky. These are two people who think differently about the same subject matter. By the time children reach 12 years of age and above, they can begin to grapple or hold the idea that one person thinks this and another person thinks this, and that rather than one is wrong, right, and the other one is wrong, or that both have merit, both ideas can be good. At this point, also, to speak to the last question that was asked, from 12 years old on, they begin, right? They're not masters yet, but they begin to be able to sort of organize and control their personal actions. Sometimes their ability to do this is interrupted simply by the fact that they're not developed yet. And then sometimes it's interrupted by more difficult things. I mean, being a psychotherapist in my field, sometimes I deal with children who have been abused or children who have had family situations that have interrupted their ability to learn well because there's maybe something going on between their parents. And that's pretty common. That's part of the task of a teacher or someone who wants to help children is to be aware of those factors as well. But barring something like that, the main limitation for people who are, let's say, 12 to 16, 17 years old is that they just don't have a lot of experience yet. My daughter, sometimes when she asks if she can do something and we say, with her friends or something, and we say no, she has occasionally said, well, sometimes it feels like you don't trust me. And what we say is, no, we trust you on the basis of your character. You're a good person. You're an honest person. You have integrity, but you don't have a lot of experience yet. And so sometimes she finds herself, even though she's good and honest and has integrity, she finds herself in situations that she's never been in before, and she simply does not know how to handle herself. And so the main limitation of this time frame is it's simple lack of experience. I will say the best way to engage kids at this age is we've now gotten out of the concrete, so we can do more abstract. So the questions we ask at this phase are much more meaningful questions. Still questions that are largely centered around them. What are your interests? Tell me about your experiences and your opinions. Lots of why, why that, and lots of how does that work? Explain that to me. Lots of free conversation. And maybe you know this, I suspect you do, but kids from 12 to 17 or so really love to be taken seriously. Sometimes adults tend to still sort of pat them on the head and treat them like children, but they really appreciate adults who can take them seriously at the age that they're at and sort of help them feel like they're more mature. It certainly seems to go a long way. So that's really it. The main thing to know about Vygotsky that we didn't already say was that whereas Piaget is largely concerned with our natural development, Vygotsky is concerned with the way that we're nurtured or our social or environmental conditions. And he had a lot to say about that. He felt that our social and cultural considerations, this is the stuff we're talking about with family, or perhaps there's something going on in a child's home that may interrupt, or on the other hand, it may genuinely aid their ability to brain develop. And he said that there were two kinds of functioning that are aided or interrupted by social considerations. Elementary, which is just the abilities of young children. These are mostly like the inborn things, like attention, memory, perception. These are things that can be improved by learning, but are really more inborn. And then he also said that there are higher things that can be learned, logic, reasoning, greater thinking ability. And interestingly, actually, one interesting note is that in addition to putting attention in an elementary function, in a basic function, Vygotsky also said that there's a higher attention as well. Those of you who've worked with young children know elementary attention is this idea that children can pay attention to anything which draws them, actively. Loud noises, bright images. This is why we recommend for young children movement, songs, videos was suggested earlier, anything that grabs them. But sometimes the thing we're looking for as children get older is a higher functional attention, which is that they can sit for longer periods. I mean, look at all of you. You're here with me tonight, sitting in front of your screens, sustaining your attention. That's a growing ability for children. Some children simply cannot do it, even when we think they ought to be able to. Again, sometimes that's because they're interrupted. There's something going on at home. They're having anxiety or depression, but sometimes it's really just a function of development. They simply aren't there yet. And that's where a really good educator has that kind of patience to be with them. So this is very short and very sweet. Here's another picture from my time in Nepal. These boys were hilarious. Whenever I was putting this slideshow together, I realized that this was a live picture. So, I pressed down and the picture animated, and it was really funny to watch them. Thank you guys for letting me be with you. Any questions or discussion that we have time for now, or otherwise, I think, Sarah, you're going to give them my slides and they'll have my email address and all that good stuff.
Yes, we'll share your email address and your slides with them. So anybody who has more questions, you can always email Ryan, or you can email me and I email your questions to Ryan. I want you go into the world and you start working, and some of you are parents, so you're gonna have questions in the future. I want to make sure you have access to someone who can help you with all of that. And then hopefully when Ryan comes to Nepal in the workshop, he's gonna be there, and he's gonna do another workshop on child psychology and mental health probably, so we can ask all those questions from him as well. Okay, any questions, comments, concerns? No? Yes, maybe? Okay, so next time, we are gonna do a topic on how to write. Some of you asked me before, like, how to write a personal statement, okay? So I invited the speaker for next time to help us to teach you guys how to write a personal statement. And you know, you can use your personal, some of you are wanting to apply for college to continue your education, universities, as an you want to find new jobs, how to write a personal statement. Some of you want to travel or kind of continue your education outside Nepal, that needs a personal statement. So in the area of effective communication, I thought to invite someone who is very good writer to help you with how to write a personal statement, to kind of figure out how to show your strength, how to talk about your weaknesses so that it sounds actually good, right? And all these things that are important, how to organize your writing your personal statement. So next time, if this is something you care about, you're interested in, or you have family members who want to learn how to write a personal statement, if they're applying for something, please invite them to participate. Even if they don't want to participate in the rest of the workshop and they just want to participate in this section of it, that's totally fine with me. We can also share the video with them. Any questions? I want to kind of stop the recording so that we can take our picture and say our goodbyes. Any questions?
Sarah,
All
I
right.
have one
Thank you
question.
so much, Ryan, for being here today. Really appreciate you. Stay. If someone has a question, someone raise their hand.
Yeah, there was looked like there was
Yeah,
one
yeah.
question.
Yes, who?
Hello, sir. Okay.
Oh, Maya. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, sir. I am Maya Kadil from Nepal,
Hi.
and this stage I'm working as a teacher at a school, and
Hmm.
one of the tasks that assigned for me, that I have to control that hyperactive child in school.
Hmm.
And most of the time I used to see him that he has more concentration in his own activities. He don't have concentration with the teacher, with his studies. He is I came to know that his parents has informed us that he has that defect, that health issue, and before burn, doctor has suggested that this child may not be the healthy and not perfect when he burn, but he burn and that with good health situation, but he is hyperactive. Nobody can control him, and his
Hmm.
focus is not in study, and he has his own world. He never listen anyone, and he always
Hmm.
disturbing more than 50 child. He is just only one in his class, and that's enough for the 50
Hmm.
student. Is disturbing all the time to teachers and whole the
Yes.
classroom and roaming around. And so how can we control such children in classroom?
Well, you're asking a question that is very relevant to work in the United States as well. When I started at the beginning of my career, there were children whose needs were so high that they were pulled out of a normal of the like standard classroom, and then all of those students, so there was about 8 or 10 of them that could not be in a regular classroom, then they were all in a classroom together, which was a uh, interesting phenomenon in itself. And I was called as an outsider, so I was not employed by the school. I was employed at a counseling practice, and they asked me to come in and work full time with one student of that 8 or 10. And so I tell you that story to tell you, congratulations. If you find this to be incredibly difficult, you are very normal. And if you want to pull your hair out and wonder, how do I do this? What I would say to you is, yes, that's correct. You are asking the correct question. How do I do this? The answer is that there is no solid magic bullet answer. There's nothing that, we would all wave the magic wand. The child that they assigned to me, I worked with him for 2 years during the school year, which is 9 months out of the year, 10 months out of the year. 2 years, 8 hours a day, me and him for let's say 20 months. And now I was very successful, sort of. What we ended up finding was that he could control himself as long as I was around. And what I did was very difficult behavioral modification. Each day, we'd say, it's time to walk down the hall. And this little boy's name was Hayden. And if Hayden could walk down the hall as he was supposed to, everything was good. But if he halfway through started acting up, we turned around and we started over. Now, the difficulty is I was there being paid to do that exact work with this one child. And although I was successful in that regard, whenever I was not around, he still had a lot of difficulty. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is the question that you're asking is a question we're still working on. I'm still working on as well. The main thing I can tell you is that it's not supposed to be easy. There's not supposed to be an easy answer, and there isn't an easy fix. But the key is obviously the persistence of the caregivers. And there is always the possibility that some children are not going to be able to be educated in the standard system. The long story with this child, that was almost 20 years ago. And I am still friends with his parents. And they write me at least once a year at Christmas to tell me how thankful they are. Eventually, though, shortly after I left that area, he had to be transferred to another school. He just could not make it on his own. But all of the work I did was instrumental in them coming to the conclusion that, oh gosh, it's really this bad. So I'm not being very helpful to you. Mostly I'm wanting to give you a hug and tell you I'm sorry. I know this is really hard work. The fact that you're interested and you're asking the question, I can just tell you that's the right path. It's not easy. I hope that helps in some way. It's a very unsatisfactory answer, I realize.
All right, thank you. Anyone else has a question? I know we passed 10 a.m. so this is supposed, but before we go, I just wanted to share one more thing, which is the website that I haven't shared, that I shared this with you before, but I just want to share one more time. So when you go to the website, sarahsafari.com/module 1, module 2, module 3, those are all the modules that we are working on. You're supposed to work on, watch the videos. So when you go down, basically you watch all these videos that kind of like it's assigned to you: emotional intelligence, goal setting, social skills, critical thinking, public speaking, physical fitness. And then there are some questions and answers that you need to fill up, right? And at the end you submit. And then when you submit, then you receive an email which will take you to the next module, module 2, and then module 3. So I want to make sure all of you can access module 1, module 2, and module 3. These are the 3 we have posted so far. Ryan has helped me to post all of this. I just want to make sure everybody can access that. And if you cannot, please send me an email and tell me we cannot watch the videos. And because that's part of your training. Is that clear? Yes. Okay, great. Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ryan, for being here.
Welcome.
I'm gonna pause, stop the recording so we can take our picture.